Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's event. I am William Warner with USC Arts in Action, part of Visions and Voices, the Arts and Humanities Initiative. So welcome and thank you for joining us at today's event, Arts, Activism and the Academy, addressing racism within higher education. Part of our current series called Foresight is 2020, Racial Justice in the Arts. And although we wish we were in person with you all today, we're still delighted to be sharing online space with you all, as well as with our 5 wonderful guests. And yesterday was Indigenous Peoples Day, when we honor the lives, histories, and traditions of Native Americans past and present. And at Visions and Voices and Arts in Action, we believe it's important to open all of our events by acknowledging the Indigenous land that we share. Arts in Action and Visions and Voices acknowledge that the University of Southern California, both the University Park campus and the Health Sciences campus, were built on the ancestral and sacred land of the Tongva Nation. We honor the Tongva and all Indigenous people, past, present, and future, and we pay respect to their continued survival and contributions to our society. We also honor the legacy of the African diaspora and recognize that this country would not exist without the free enslaved labor of Black people. We share these acknowledgements to raise awareness about histories that are too often erased or forgotten, to pay respect to the original caretakers of this land, and to recognize our place in this history. We hope that this work continues beyond our events and helps inform our individual and collective actions in the years ahead and for generations to come. Thank you. So, although tonight's event is a panel discussion, we do encourage you to be liberal with your use of the chat function. We love reading your thoughts and feedback throughout the event. Please, of course, keep that respectful. Also, if you'd like to ask a question to one or all of our panelists at any point in the event, please go ahead and make use of the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, and our moderator will do her best to get to your questions. On the subject of our moderator, I'm thrilled to introduce Tara McPherson, who will be guiding the discussion tonight. Tara is Chair and Professor of Cinema and Media Studies at USC School of Cinematic Arts, Director of the Sidney Harman Academy for Polymathic Studies, and Chair of the Visions and Voices Faculty Committee. Her research engages the cultural dimensions of media, including the intersection of gender, race, effect, and place. And she has a particular interest in digital media. Hello, Tara.
Hello, it's great to have the audience here with us, and we have a really lively and distinguished panel who have a lot to share with you. We've had the opportunity to talk a bit among ourselves before coming to you tonight, and I'm going to call on each of the panelists to introduce themselves, to let us know, what they think we should know in 90 seconds or less. So why don't we kick off with Professor Anita Dashiell-Sparks.
Hello, everyone. Hello. I'm so honored and pleased to be here as a part of this event tonight. Anita Dashiell-Sparks. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am currently the Associate Dean of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion for the USC School of Dramatic Arts, where I also am an Associate Professor of Theater Practice, teaching performance, acting, physical theater, movement, and critical studies. And I also have the great pleasure of serving as the co-head of undergraduate acting for SDA as well. Excited to be here.
Thank you so much, Anita. Sabela?
Peace, good people. My name is Sabela Grimes. I'm a transmedia storyteller, associate professor in Gloria Kaufman School of Dance. I love long walks on the beach. I love pancakes. A lot of my work has now, people have caught up to what I do as an artist, and they're calling it Afrofuturist. So they are catching up to the future, and I am going to continue to flow forward, and I look forward to chopping it up with you all today. Peace!
Thank you. Tyree?
Hey y'all, Tyree, known as Tyree BP on the internets, but by trade I am a public historian, museum curator, activist, public speaker, but really just your neighborhood scholar in Koreatown here in Los Angeles. I am excited to be in the conversation because Black history is especially in vogue right now, and I look forward to speaking truth to power through my practice both within museums and making an Afrofuturist vision of it coming about. Thank y'all.
Hey.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Ash.
Hi, everybody. I'm really excited to be here with you. My name is Ashley Lukashevsky. I'm originally from Honolulu, Hawaii, but I am now in historic Filipino town in Los Angeles in Tongva land. I'm a visual artist. Yeah, I'm very close to you, Tyree. As you were saying that, I was like, I'm probably like 1 mile away from you. I am a visual artist and illustrator, and I really focus on doing work around social movements that support racial justice, immigrant rights, and LGBTQIA liberation.
Fantastic. When we had an opportunity to speak last week, we were commenting, I think as many conversations often now begin, on the weight of the world around us and a kind of certain heaviness that many of us feel we may be moving through in light of all that's going on in the many pandemics that are afflicting America. But Sabela brought our discussion around to a different emotional register in really talking about the way emotion could drive work at the intersection of arts and activism. Sabela, you spoke about joy. Anita spoke about capaciousness. Ash asked how we might use art practice and community as a catalyst for hope. And Tyree spoke to how fact might be mobilized to imagine new futures, right? So I wonder if you could each reflect a little bit about how you see the role of emotion, of feelings as important to the work that you do, and how you bring that alive in your practice.
That's a good question. That's a good question.
Sabela, you want to tell us about joy?
Sure. Well, I would say most of my work, well, let me just say this first and foremost. I feel and experience that we have the capacity to be angry and still continue to draw from the wellspring of joy. Sometime around when things got extra focused on Black folks for this 3 seconds, I was on a panel with Japan for Black Lives. And it was really deep because at one point someone asked the question, and the preface to the question was around Black expressive forms. And in particular, this is a community that's doing Black dance forms, street dance forms, Black vernacular social dance forms. They were like, well, we know, that a lot of these, what we practice here is rooted in struggle. And I just was going, oh, wow, I need to be a bit more obnoxious about the ministry of joy. And the fact that in these communities, what's important is for us to maybe take time to recognize and acknowledge that what may have brought you to the practice is the fact that African people in this experience have the capacity, they understand the alchemy to be in a condition to still draw from the wellspring of joy. And the reason I say the wellspring of joy is because in this country, not all you enlightened beings in other countries, but in this country, people continue to place the timeline of African people a couple hundred years ago. And so when I say I draw from the wellspring of joy, I'm talking about my forebears who experienced joy, and the frequency of their joy is in that wellspring, and that's what I draw from. So that shows up in quote unquote what I do in my work. And I'll pass it on to someone else.
Thank you. Anita?
Yes, and I'll pick up that baton because I think that the dynamic of capacity in the context of the art that we create and the fusion of that art and intersection of art and activism is, I think, that from that wellspring of joy, which I also fervently believe in operating out of that space, creating out of that space, because yes, our ancestors did that very thing, and that kind of resiliency and that strength. There's also, I think, something about strength and capacity in affinity with others. So there's also something about in the art that I create and make and do as an actress, as well as a director, and in the community. I think that facet of communal, what does it really mean to be in communion with each other across space, across story, across experience, this sort of shared collective vocabulary and language and energy and emotion and feeling that we can really allow ourselves to experience, to really experience in the work, and what kind of experience is being cultivated and created in the art making is something that I'm very mindful of and in the experience, in the process.
Ash, I will look at your visual work soon, but I think it radiates a kind of joy in its design. It communicates, I think, a powerful sense of connection and place. Do you think about the emotional impact of your work when you're designing? Is it meant to evoke specific feelings?
Yeah, definitely. And as you were talking, Sabela, I looked over, and from our last conversation, I'd written steeped in joy, which is something that you had said, and that's something that really resonated with me because obviously we are existing in these really harmful, violent systems, but how do we reach for that hope and how do we reach for that joy? And that's so much of what kind of fuels the work that I do, because all of the people who are organizing, all the people who are doing this very important work need to continuously like refuel that source. Like you said, like tapping into that wellspring. And I also see my art as another source that's available to people, and so many people's art. I think the work that all of you create as well, like how do we do the work that we do in order to support others in their work, and how do we help others to fill their hearts and feel like their energy reserves. And so when I'm creating a piece, I definitely want it to be rooted in the reality of what's going on right now, but also visioning forward to what can be. So bright colors, you know, people loving each other despite the systems that contain us right now. And I think, yeah, that's like a lot of the work that I create.
That's really powerful. Tyree, could you talk a little bit about how the real matters to you? You know, you and I talk some about fact and what you aspire to do as a public historian to mobilize fact toward new ends.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, thank you for this opportunity. I remain inspired by Blackness because particularly there's a vibrancy to Blackness that's not that you can almost see on a color spectrum, especially if you understand this experience. And I realized that this society historically has always viewed that vibrancy through a very criminal lens. And that criminal lens often denigrates that color, the vibrancy of Blackness, to being very mute. But, and that mute point often is ridiculed and criminalized by how we, the dominant culture will say that Black folks in particular are being overly emotional, or their emotionalism has gotten the best of them. And if you look at history, you will always see, whether it is our protest, whether it is our spiritual experiences, it's always deemed as like hyper emotionalism that's never actually like verifiable. But as a historian who also sees Blackness and its vibrance, I take that trope of hyper emotionalism and then I upend it to therefore find moments in Black history where it is that joy, that vibrancy is actually substantiated in fact, whether it be through protests, whether it be in 1992 and the sanctity of the righteous anger that people felt about Latasha Harlins and Rodney King's beating, and or just the Azusa revival in 1906 in Los Angeles that actually inspired the Pentecostal movement that we in Black churches are still experiencing today. This, and then at that time, they ridiculed and said that they, those people have gotten, something's gotten in them. I know as a historian, Black joy, Black vibrance is verifiable. And my job is to tell the dominant group that whether they understand it or not, does not dissuade us from participating.
I love the way you touched us down to different points in history when social movement really motivated new ways of being together and new ways of thinking and working and of communion, right? So, you know, we're in this volatile, crazy time right now, and yet, you know, I think many of us are also experiencing it as a very hopeful time, a time when once again a kind of ratchet shift seems possible in social organization and in new ways of being that we collectively might, you know, try to bring together. So I'm wondering how just the very recent history of the last 5 months is, you know, shaping the way you're thinking about the work you do in whatever institution you're doing it. Like, how is a call and response between larger social movements in the street coming home to the spaces you're working in, you know, in a kind of concrete way?
I can start.
Please.
I was trying to see if anyone was going to go first. You know, we're in this time of dual pandemic, of the pandemic of COVID-19 and the pandemic of white supremacy. And now it's like this momentous check-in, this like momentous feeling of like, we've never had this many things stacked on top of each other, at least so visibly. And for me personally, it's looked like really prioritizing the kinds of work that I'm doing right now and not pretending like things are normal. You know, it's like that sense of urgency that in itself is a very white supremacist creation, just not putting up with it anymore, just looking at it and saying, actually, this project is not really urgent. What is something that actually needs to happen that will help my community? And I think that it's also being in the privileged position that I am in as a white adjacent person, and like having the access that I do as an artist who has been able to survive. So I have privileges that have allowed me to pick and choose where to spend my time, but it's definitely been this big moment of checking into how I can actually practice my values in the work that I'm doing and not just pretend like everything is normal, you know, like, I'm sure most of you follow the Nap Ministry on Instagram and her work and her blog. And she had this post that was just talking about how we can't just go along and pretend like things are normal. We can't just answer emails like normal. So just really taking that to heart and integrating that into my work and slowing down and resting and trying to practice hope as much as possible.
Beautiful. Sabela, do you want to talk a little bit about things you've been doing at a daily pace? I think you're muted.
I will say that it's been such a beautiful reflective period, and it's been a period of a type of vibratory stillness where the intention is to be still, but you can still feel the vibrations, right? And one of the things that came up for me in this sort of vibratory stillness is, and I'm smiling because there's this thing that happens when you're applying for a grant or when you're speaking to people about something that you may be creating or something that you already have created. I'll say me, I'll speak first person. Most of the work that I've done has been self-funded. And so there's this really interesting dance that I do, pun intended, with presenters and what have you. And one of the questions that stands out for me is, who is your audience, right? When they ask an artist. And I'm thinking, well, yo, I'm coming to your city. Who is your audience? Who's the community that you're engaged in, right? Who are you engaged with? It seemed crazy for me to be coming to your city, your town, and that's weird to me. And I've thought about this my whole career. But what the pull around for me has been, well, I actually know my audience, and I know my audience says, and they might not show up to your venue. So what do? And one of those audiences, and even the concept of audience is there's a lot of room to stretch that out, is, I go to Leimert Park and I dance. I just dance. And I dance because everything I do is based on the practice of social dance. People join in. The video clip that you have today, I was getting cussed out for like 2 or 3 moments. And that's the people I'm engaged with, this idea of audience. And also the audience in these movement meditations are, as I've said before, Leimert Park for me is a frequency field. I don't need a studio to train or practice. I go there to give back to Leimert Park, right? And at the same time, be in communion with the invisible, the unborn, the folks that are passing by, the folks that are in, like all of these sort of audiences. And this is what this of many things, this time has really helped me appreciate.
Anita, have you seen transformations in the School of Dramatic Arts through your role as a dean to really kind of think through what we need on campus to help students as we move through this time?
Absolutely. The thing I wanted to say when I was hearing Sabela speak and then your question is that I've been thinking a lot about and trying to put into action, into motion, relationship building, right? What does it really mean during this time, during this pause that feels like a reset, a really kind of rare opportunity to reset and recenter and refocus on really what and who is most important, which are people. It's the human capital. It's the students. It's my fellow colleagues. It's my other fellow artists and peers. And do you know what I'm saying? So it's like that the check-in that Ash talked about, it's like, it feels like it's been a collective moments of checking in and trying to really do that in my role as an administrator, as an educator, as just a sister friend, you know what I mean? And fellow artists, just checking in with folks on a real intimate level, because there's something about this space and this medium of Zoom that I think is hyper intimate. And it's like there are no boundaries, do you know what I mean? In terms of like space of our personal lives and our lived histories and experiences are visible. There's no hiding, right? They're right there up front. They're seeing the dog comes in, my 3 kids, my hubby, do you know what I mean? While I'm teaching in the class, and you know what? They're just in it. They're just in the circumstance. They're in the moment with me and my students as we are doing what we're doing. And I think there's something really alive and active and powerful about that fusion of how art imitates life, life imitates art, of us being present in the moment. So it's made me fiercely more present in the moment with whoever I'm with.
It's such an interesting repercussion of spending so much time in these little boxes on Zoom, because I absolutely feel that kind of intimacy and connection as well. And I think the times have broken down some barriers, but I also think while this is a very institutional capitalist platform, you know, I study digital media and there's a lot I don't even want to know about Zoom and what it's really up to, but its effective registers, its emotional possibility has just allowed a kind of flow that is very different, you know, than what the institution wants to demand of us. It feels like we could work against the institution's own constrictions, even with their software, right? So fascinating. Tyree, do you see shifts in the kind of spaces you're in wrought by the summer?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that museums are going through an existential crisis in this moment, particularly about what is their utility and who and what are they going to be for? As we all know, and we're all rather, we're all very intelligent, but there's a colonial reckoning happening with museums that is long overdue. And I was asked recently about how do we get diversity and inclusion in museums, and I said, well, you can't get diversity and inclusion without actually reckoning and then reconciling, right? I think everyone's running to reconciling without actually addressing the reckoning that needs to happen in order to finally make things democratic, or at least equitable. But because museums are closed, the institution I work for, particularly the Autry, has been forced to think about itself outside of the four walls. And that reimagining of the museum outside of the four walls finally lets Black and brown people in to a predominantly white space that has always felt very exclusionary. And I'm really taking advantage of this window, which is of this pandemic, to finally broker and break down the proverbial walls that exist between Black and brown communities. Now, I'm also still addressing the violence that's on the other side of that proverbial wall, that's on display and that's curated in many fashions. But I also believe that there is an opportunity to finally decenter whiteness in these white spaces, predominantly white spaces, in an institutional way that we've long been waiting for and have been advocating in both streets and in boardrooms. So I'm taking advantage of that, and I'm not alone. And I'm excited that museums are finally being shaken to their core.
And is it, I think, a similar shaking within foundations that's interesting to have now, say, an African-American poet interested in prison abolition heading the Mellon Foundation.
Right.
And with their big announcements now is, art and change around monuments, right? It feels like a really new moment, right? That is full of possibility and spaces we might move into. I want to turn individually to each of your work because I want to make sure our audience realizes, as Tyree said, just how smart you all are and talented and accomplished, right? So we have asked each panelist to give us something of theirs to share with you, and they've selected what that excerpt or feature will be. So I'm going to ask us to start with Sabela, and if William, if you want to run the clip, that would be awesome.
I am, and that is more than enough. That I am, and that is more than enough. I am, and that is more than enough.
I am, and that is more than enough.
I am open to seeing. I am open to seeing and being seen unmasked and holy. Unmasked and holy. I am open to seeing and being seen unmasked and holy.
I am open to seeing and being seen unmasked and holy.
I'm going to see and be seen unmasked and holy. Ancestral and cosmic wisdom is available to me today and every day.
Ancestral and cosmic wisdom is available to me today and every day.
Ancestral and cosmic wisdom is available to me today and every day.
Ancestral and cosmic wisdom is available to me today and every day.
Ancestral and cosmic wisdom is available to me today and every day.
Ancestral and cosmic wisdom is available to me today and every day. Ancestral and cosmic wisdom is available to me today and every day.
I am ready. I am healing energy, and I am ready to use what the good I'm healing energy, and I'm ready to use what the good earth gave me.
I am healing energy and I'm ready.
That is so moving, right? And I've watched the longer clip. I would urge you all to go to Sabela's Instagram account and follow him and watch the full 7-minute cycle of this video. But one of the things that really was so moving about it for me, and that's, echoed through my head from the time you sent it till now, is it's repetitive. It's use of repetition, right? So it iterates, it repeats, but it repeats with a difference. And in that kind of repetition with a difference, it moves us forward and moves us back. Can you talk about the process for the piece? And if you think about repetition in the way you choreograph?
Mm-hmm. So I'll start with repetition. In these intelligent systems that I practice as a composer, as a digital composer, as a dancer, repetition and layering are means to progress. And it's really important for me to keep that in my practice, because I enter spaces where there's a competing sometimes idea of what progression looks like. So in dance, it's like you do an idea and you let it go, and that's progression along a very linear way of thinking about progression. And at the same time, it's just for me to really honor the dance forms that I practice. Repetition is a life. It's an unfolding. It's a becoming. And so that's what repetition is very intentional in my work. Although I'm in that sort of practice in the social and cultural practices. Now, with this piece in particular, Dr. Shamel Bell, sorry Shamel if you're out there. Dr. Shamel Bell had this idea several months ago, and she's like, I just see this, Sabela, don't you see? I was like, yeah, just tell me what to do, I'll show up and I'm down. So a core group of people came together to create this sort of group for street dance activism and do for Black August a global dance meditation. And my offering was to make sure that I did a meditation, a very full meditation for the 28 days. And that was to dance and allow real-time choreography through improvisation, the improvisation of making the music. So most of the music that I use was created that day. And then the last final part of the meditation was to create a visual, digital, manipulative, sort of glitchy experience. So there's a fullness to it that was really intentional. And the offering, of course, is just the energy to think about liberation, to think about joy, to think about rest, to think about stillness, and just to honor our practices amongst our community in a way that sometimes when we're out trying to get recognition from institutions, you just don't get that sort of reciprocity. So it was a beautiful experience.
And there's a kind of way that transformation is made manifest, you know, both in your own costuming and also in the voices and the way they come to intermingle from single voices to communal voices over the course of the piece.
Yeah, thank you. And the costume, which I designed as well, is an obvious nod to Sun Ra, and maybe a not so obvious Ra to Grace Jones, who is Queen Mother Supreme, like one of the people that I go, all the time. And the layers in the fabric have to do with the fabric of time. The entity's name is quantum. What I do is quantum leaping. And that costume comes out of a piece that's continuing to develop called Dark Matter Messages, which is a love letter to Octavia E. Butler. And there's been several chapters of that. The latest sort of chapter or episode has been with The Broad, which I think hasn't even been a week yet. Parable of Portals. So just the way the work can continue to live as modular and really not just modular, but interactive and responsive. So if something creates an opportunity, I'm in dialogue with whomever, and another chapter emerges. And it's the right time. You know, as California burns, I think of Octavia E. Butler quite a bit. Yeah. And I haven't been very explicit, just to be very transparent with you, about who some of the people that I draw from. It's been very coded, and I think I've reached a place in this moment where I'm very explicit to say, Octavia E. Butler, Dark Matter Messages, Parable of, fill in the blank, and how she's informed me and continues to do that.
Thank you. Ash, let's turn to your work. We have a slideshow with some images of Ash's art.
I don't want to follow that.
There's really, you know, vibrancy and joy in the work. Who's the baby?
Just, I don't know the baby's name, but a lot of parents send me pictures of their babies reading the book, and so I just have this folder of like people's babies that I like to repost. And
it's incredible. I mean, you obviously are animating that ethics of care that your work addresses in so many of the images. I would encourage you to go to Ash's website and see the kind of amazing list of collaborations and range of images that you've produced. But that care that sort of really sort of vibrates, you know, off the surface of the page. Can you talk about what it's like to move that care into public, into the bus stop signs, into the billboards that we've seen in different cities? How does the public facing nature of your work impact how you think about its ethics?
Yeah, well, it's really interesting because when I first started doing illustration work around social movement, I mean, I basically started doing illustration work because I felt like I needed to work through my anger and work through my frustration. And I'm not really a writer, I'm not musical. Like, that was my way of vocalizing what I was feeling and what I felt like I needed to help raise a platform for. And so from the beginning, I was really creating things for myself. And then I started sharing them online and realized that they would resonate with other people. But from the beginning, I was sharing a lot of things on social media, and I still do. But after a while, it kind of hit this point where I felt like things needed to be tactile. Like, I needed things to be out in public and be able to reach people who don't just already exist like within my world, even if it's my online world, right? And so I guess now when I'm thinking about creating work, it is really this feeling of care and wanting people to feel held, regardless of who sees this piece, whether it's on social media, whether it's on a bus stop, whether it's on a billboard or a wheat paste. Like, I want people to see that and for them to feel something, maybe like a reflection of themselves and their family and their community, or feel hopeful or see themselves or feel held in some kind of way. So yeah, I guess I just try to create work that is really authentic to real people, to my own experiences, to the experiences of my collaborators. You know, one of the pieces that was shown, I think it's actually here. I did this one in collaboration with the People's Paper Co-op for the Free Our Mamas bailout, and all of the poetry and photography and words were from women who were previously incarcerated, and the poetry came from them. Like, I see myself so much more as a tool a lot of times. It's like, how can I be a tool to help other people tell their stories? So I tried to keep it authentic in that way.
And there's a lovely kind of symmetry between that facilitating and that ethics of care that I think the work really vibrates with. You've also had a really broad array of kinds of partnerships and collaborations. So some that are very centered in activist work, some that are with institutions like the ACLU, some that are with corporations like REI. I mean, what do you think about when you're choosing partners and deciding where to kind of focus your efforts in relation?
Yeah, so earlier this year, I wrote out a manifesto for myself. I keep wanting to use a different word because manifesto feels like this, like very like, I don't know. There's something weird about that word to me. I'm watching Tyree's reactions right now. Yeah, so I basically wrote out this document which outlined like my hard lines of like, yes, no, maybe, things I need to think about, you know, who are the stockholders in this company, who are the CEOs, how do they treat their workers, where are their products made? Because with all of my art, with everything that I create, with my existence, I want to not create more harm. I want to do more than that. I want to make this world better and I want to increase joy. But at the bottom line, I don't want to create more harm. And I think it's a lot of times when you're working with a big institution or corporation and they see artists like me who do movement art, they want to co-opt that to sell more products. And I think that like a lot of artists in the space that I work in have a lot of offers like that. So it's being very aware of that so that you know what you are giving up in order to make money, you know? And so I'm kind of like always in this gray area of deciding like, does this feel like a gut yes, or does this feel like a gut no? Is my rent covered? Is something I have to do? So, you know, there's a lot of negotiations that happen, but I think especially in this past year, in the past 6 months, it's been like a much larger refocusing on the movement work, because we are in a point where it's like a, you know, tables can turn. So why miss that opportunity in order to do a collab with some company I don't care about?
Absolutely. Professor Sparks is going to walk us through a kind of overview of some of the productions she's directed. So it's all yours, Anita.
Oh, thank you. And as an artist, I very much love the intersection of the movement and the fluidity between song and the spoken word and the physical embodiment of all of that. So I was inspired to create a little recitation as I move you through these pieces. All right. I am an endangered species, well, well, yet I sing no victim song. I am a woman, I am an artist, and I know where my voice belongs. My art, my activism is a remix, a rewind, go back in time, a reimagining, a deconstruction, a reconstruction of history, of her story, of their stories, of people's identities, experiences, names untalked of, unheard of, unseen, now seen, the invisible made visible. By recasting the lens through which we are seeing, experiencing, listening, and understanding the world. Recasting the lens through which we see an octoroon, written by Brandon Jacob Jenkins, told through the lens of the enslaved instead of the slave master, challenging us to question what we think, what we know to be true, what we know to be authentic, analyzing how race and gender are social constructions, deconstructing stereotypes, amplifying who is the other, amplifying, questioning who is the other. You don't know what a slave sounded like, and neither did I. It's about an audience wanting to feel something, and they want to feel it, so give it to them. If you get to teach them a lesson along the way, then all the better. Recast the lens on Men on Boats by Jacqueline Bauckhaus, inspired by the journals of John Wesley Powell of his 1869 expedition along the Colorado River with 9 other men. Note on casting. The characters in Men on Boats were historically cisgendered white males. So the cast should not be made up of people in that way. I'm talking about racially diverse actors, native actors, casting actors who are female identifying, trans identifying, gender fluid and or non-gender conforming. Recast the lens on Antigone X by Paula Sismar, a contemporary adaptation of Sophocles' Antigone, set against the backdrop of immigrants from all over the world in refugee camps, fighting for their human rights, their equal rights, a sense of civility, a sense of equality, justice, and democracy for all. Recast the lens on Safe Harbor by Tara Palmquist, that brought the victims and survivors of human trafficking, the commercial sexual exploitation of children, 11, 13 years old to be exact, happening in plain sight in the hotbed of trafficking, right in the City of Angels, Los Angeles, allowing them to speak truth to power, to humanize their experience, to make visible the invisible sans statistics and numbers, but to put a face onto the experiences and the dynamics that they have endured, to recast the lens, to reimagine, to deconstruct and reconstruct histories and identities across time and space through the power of our words, through the power of our actions, and the images and the stories that we dare to tell.
Thank you so much. That remix was beautiful. And I love the way your work as a director so powerfully engages history and remakes history through a dramatic lens. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how you view your role in taking historical moments and helping your audience know that moment, but also reimagine it from a different perspective.
Yes, it's always, I'm such a nerd in that I love history, I love research, I love dramaturgy. And so all of that informs the work that I do when I'm doing it as an actor or a director. And I think that history is something that is seen as being so antiquated and a dead thing, a thing that is not active and alive, a thing that is not actively in conversation with the present. And so I'm fascinated and curious and love to provoke through my art that kind of inquiry, that kind of conversation about how is the past in conversation with the present, how in the way that history has been taught and preserved and passed down, whose voices and experiences and stories have been purposely, systemically excluded from history. And so all of those different pieces that I shared, each in their own way, literally recast the lens. They completely disrupt the status quo. They completely disrupt the notions of stereotyping and perceptions and identity of who you think is going to tell that story, that has the agency and the power to tell the stories. And so it's fascinating. And all of those three pieces that I shared, that the agency was put in the positional authority of individuals who are minoritized, who are marginalized and otherized and oppressed by these different systems and structures that they didn't create, but they certainly have been deemed a particular kind of place they hold in that. So it really explodes and it upends all of that in those different stories and experiences, which I love to do. I love a healthy disruption.
Each of the pieces also has a very unique look and feel about it, the way it's mobilizing backgrounds or the setting. How do you think about the visual design of the space as you're pulling a production together and focusing on that shifting of the lens?
Yes, it makes me think about the atmosphere, right? What is the atmosphere? What is the environment that this story, that this narrative, that these people that inhabit the story are situated within? And that actually, the answers to those questions and working with the designers for us to really create Ash used the word earlier, a tactile sensory, alive, living space, so that that the atmosphere itself, that the mood in the theater really becomes another character in the world of the play, and how the story is being told and how the story is being experienced by the audience there to receive it.
Amazing. There's real resonance, Tyree. I think the things we were just hearing from Anita and from some of your work as well. So let's watch your video, and then I want to kind of continue to reflect on history and what we do with it.
Growing up in Koreatown and being a little black boy in Los Angeles, you always felt as if you didn't belong. As I got up in age, I kind of removed myself from wanting to be the nerdy kid. I would find myself with a 1.87 GPA and a college counselor telling me that a four-year university was probably less than likely. If I had another chance to say something to that college counselor, I would probably say, look at me now. I am a leading public historian in the field of African American history in the West at two major museums.
1 in 3 black males born today will see the inside of a prison cell.
A few years ago, I had the opportunity to give a TED Talk regarding the thesis of black male exceptionalism. Essentially, with every one successful black man, there's 9 other black men who haven't had the opportunity to become a success in our society. I harnessed my own righteous indignation to curate an anti-racist toolkit called Freedom Papers about how we can truly see the social conditions of black people in this country over the course of 400 years. Millennials, we understand that the social conditions that we live underneath, we have the capacity to change them if we rise to the occasion. And I think this is that moment, and I'm glad to be working alongside so many amazing people who are reimagining that future together.
I love the kind of energy of that piece. I also love that for the students who are in the audience, you're very powerfully reminding them that they are not their GPA. You know, one of the things I say to my students is, you know, you're in college, just forget about it, right? Like if you're still thinking about your GPA when you're 30, you've made a misturn in your life. Go, right? So maybe you could tell the audience a little bit about the Freedom Papers and what you were working toward with that project.
Yeah, so in the heat of anger that I had relating to the death of George Floyd on the heels of Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor earlier this pandemic. Wow, this is all the same year. Goodness gracious. I sought to just harness my anger and then really synthesize it into a toolkit of like all the resources I would use as a professor, all the resources I would use as a protester, all the resources I would use to just onboard any layman, lay person, lay woman, lay them, the opportunity to just understand what it means to participate in Black liberatory politics. And so this toolkit chock full of like 20 pages of like playlists and articles and book lists and syllabi just was meant to onboard my friends. And then it spread, and it's gone viral, which I'm very proud of because in this moment where this movement for Black Lives, which is led by Black queer women and Black queer folks, it's so important to have allies who are on the same page politically so that they don't gentrify the movement for their own gain. But beyond that, the toolkit has just been an outpouring of my own personal politics and just wanting to build community around how we can effectively create change and a future for us all. And so that's really it. And I'm glad to just use what I've learned from the academy and just bring it back to the hood, who so desperately deserve the same resources.
Can you talk a little bit? I mean, I think you, like Anita, are reanimating history when you're doing curatorial work, but through a different lens than the dramatic arts. Can you talk about what inspires you about curating and how it connects you to public history?
Completely, and I think Dee would feel me on this. In the tradition, in the spirit of Afrofuturism, all of what Octavia Butler has done and so many others like Nnedi Okorafor or N.K. Jemisin is world building, right? Like Black folks, because this world has failed us, this society has failed us so desperately, we oftentimes resort to world building where we can actually see ourselves centered because this current reality doesn't. And so as a curator, I have the legitimacy and also the privilege of doing that in physical spaces. What does it look like to build a world, build a history, a timeline where Black people are finally centered and everyone else has to peer in onto their lives, right? And there's something revolutionary and radical about that. And I think as a curator, of course, using only things that have been substantiated by fact and historical record gives me the opportunity to legitimize the lives and the experiences of Black and Brown youth for the first time in their academic careers. And so that's what I do. And I think it's really just a part of a larger canon or our toolkit that Anita and Dee and Ashley all are wielding in order to effectively, upend white supremacy. that's the job. That's the job, and I'm just having fun doing it, like they are.
I feel like I could talk to y'all all night. I know that, I should also be respectful of your time. So I want to open up a few questions from the audience so that we can talk with them as well. So we already have one that's come in through the chat, and I think it sort of circles back to the kind of larger rubric of our title, which is also asking us to speak about higher education or education in general. And the question is, how do you balance in the work that you do the need to create, to generate, to world build with a desire to educate and the usefulness of a didactic purpose? Like how do you find a balance between creation and education?
I'll jump in. For me, I have always had a very strong feeling of accountability and responsibility for the images and the representation that I create, that I'm responsible for building and making, actually. So it is not random at all that I use theater and dramatic arts and storytelling and the different modalities of that through that art form to really use it as a catalyst to educate and to raise awareness about very salient and relevant topics and issues that we're confronting and facing in our present time, that we faced in the past, and that has very real consequences and implications for our future. So I feel a really strong conviction in my kind of core values to use the art as an agent for social change and social justice through education and provoking conversation as a dialogue in the work.
Others?
Oh, I think we all unmuted at the same time.
Ash, what about you?
Yeah, it's definitely a balance, because I think that I can get into a mode where I just want to create educational work just to get information out. And I think that a lot of the work also, because of the people that I depict, is kind of inherently educational, just raising the narratives and centering the narratives of queer people of color. But something that I think has been helpful for me is to make sure that I'm also working on my own art practice and making work that's really personal to me. As a mixed race Korean person, it's been really important for me to learn more about the history of art in my own cultures, and kind of doing a lot of like that ancestral work and prayer and meditation. And that has really like filled my creativity battery so that I can make the other work that is so important to me. Because I think that if you just do like the education work, like the hard kind of movement work, you can get really burnt out. So it's making sure that you're also doing the work that makes you happy and recharged and connected to your ancestors and to this world and to your community.
And you know, I want to like take the moment to sort of also call out the fact that USC has so much work to do in order to address these kinds of questions as an institution in terms of equity and justice, right? So USC, as far as we could tell, has 33 Black faculty members, most of whom are not tenured, right? And we have thousands of faculty, right? So that number is woefully insufficient. And I know that it puts an extraordinary tax on my two colleagues who are on the panel with us to represent and represent and represent. So, you know, Sabela, how do you survive the kind of, you know, racism of the institution and regenerate yourself in the face of all that we over and over and over again ask you to do?
Okay, so the joke in my house is that my name is Fallback Freddy. And so Fallback Freddy is like it's a mode that I go into. The invisible labor that comes with being Black at this institution is overwhelming. It's immeasurable. And so I feel like, you know, Tyree is talking about world building. I feel like I'm also like drawing lines and borders all the time with the institution, right? Nah, son, back up, back up. And then the opposite side of that is to fall back. Hey, can you? No. Hey, can you? No. Hey, can you? No. And a lot of that is rooted in me listening, what I'm learning to really listen to what the intention is behind the ask. So I say a lot of yes. I know. But sometimes the no is very clear because I can see that, oh, you want to use me as a prop or a pawn or I get it. And where I find most of my joy, of course, is with the students. And to circle back around to your question is, how do I bring some of the ethos, the flavor, the intentionality that I put into what I do creatively into what I call the cipher? And no, I didn't coin that. No, I'm just joking. But there's a cipher sort of, we were talking about world building, but community building, community engagement, which I think is really important at this institution in particular, because I've come across so many students that have, they approach their education in a very transactional way. And what it does for them, it makes them very passive. I pay this much money, I need to get this job. That's passive to me. Where are you actively involved in your own sort of charting your path, or even improvising along that path is more interesting to me in my work, right? And what I do in the studio or in the lecture room. And, you know, just to circle really, really back around is the care. I really am feeling my students right now, and I'm leaning in on how obnoxiously I can care for them.
Thank you. Tyree, I want you to know that somebody has noted they used the Freedom Papers in their teaching, so I want you to know that shout out's in the chat. But there's also a question that I think as we start to wrap up, I'm gonna hand to you from Laura in the audience, thanking you all for your work, and then saying, I find I am so done, it's hard for me to read this, with so many Los Angeles art institutions looking for white males from New York and at times Europe to lead them. I imagine you may find this frustrating as well. Do you have a vision for how to cease this trend?
That's a tricky one. I realize that the trajectory that I am on, particularly in museums, is for administration, right? Like you see figures like Dr. Lonnie Bunch, who's now the secretary of the museum, secretary of the Smithsonian. And, you know, he's the first, not only just the first African-American to possess a role, but he's the first historian to do that. And I think the future of art institutions, culturally specific institutions, has to reflect the actual populace. And so 2040, everyone is going to be brown, right? Or the vast majority will, but will leadership at these institutions be that? And I can tell you that the pipelines preparing future Black executive directors or future brown executive directors or future Asian executive directors of museums, these culturally specific places, is not effective now when it exactly needs to be where they actually need to be in place in order to meet 2040 head on. And because they're not, we can predict that white supremacist notions and views and public programming and exhibitions will still be running rampant in 2040. And we can predict that now in 2020, right? So if I pursue and I'll remain on this track of executive directorship of a culturally specific institution, I can one day fill that role. But I and or others will only be one or two or three, right? That's if the pipeline actually assures or ensures our success in passing through. And I can guarantee you that there is not enough. And until that is rectified on an institutional level, right? Not just like, oh, we had one go through, like, or one individual token, then we will continue to see these institutions do just that, hire those gentlemen from New York and Europe. And that's not my job, right? Like I can't fix these institutions. I can't save these institutions. I can only hold them to account. And then after that, the work is on them. And so I just pray that they will create the pipelines necessary in order to change their futures, because they're the only ones who can rectify them.
And I loved your earlier kind of comment about reckoning, right?
Yeah, let's reckon now. Yeah. Let's reckon now.
So, we are now, almost 15 minutes over time. So I want to move us to wrap up, but I want to give you each a chance to say one more thing, words of wisdom. I suspect we have, folks in the audience who would like to be more like each of you. Is there, a sentence of advice you'd offer to those coming behind you about how to remain both fierce and joyful?
Yeah. Okay, my mic is on, so I'll just speak. Yes, so my goal is to make 5 more of me's in this museum work, right? So if you see yourself in that same light or have a desire for see yourself having curatorial visions, please feel free to reach out to me, and you can follow me on Twitter and other social media channels at Tyree BP. I'll put it in the chat. And then my email is the same, tyreebp@gmail.com. And let's discuss. Maybe there's a potential mentorship opportunity. Maybe I can show you in the direction of grants that can help onboard you. But we need you. And I pray and hope that you will take my job someday so that the baton can truly be passed. But let's do this work together. I'm not a fan of being a lonely only.
Ash?
Yeah, something that I like to end things with is one of my favorite things that Adrienne Maree Brown says in Emergent Strategy, that the world that we're living in right now, these systems that we're existing in, are not natural. They were dreams of a group of white men. So that means that us as a group can envision the way forward and can envision a new world for ourselves. And let's just try to keep that in mind. And also, for all of you who are able to vote in LA, get rid of Jackie Lacey. We need to get her out of the DA's office because she's an accomplice to murder. No to Prop 25 and yes on J. That's
Excellent.
all.
Vote, people. Yeah. Sabela?
First and foremost, let me just talk about a little vitamin G. I'm just going to tell everyone out there, please take a daily dose of vitamin G. And in my movement system, vitamin G stands for gratitude. So for everybody out there, whatever you're grateful for, throw it in the chat right now. Don't think hard about it. What are you grateful for? Throw it in the chat. Let's go. And yeah, let's just continue to show up and glow up. Let's show up for the glow up. That's it.
Anita?
This has just been such a joy to be in this company and community with everybody this evening. So deeply inspired and moved. And I just want to say that you have no limitations. You literally have no limitations. You can break out of boxes, perceived boxes, self-imposed boxes, other boxes that are being imposed upon you externally, but you can do it. And that your voices, your thoughts, your ideas, your point of view and perspective, your lived histories and experiences matter. And use your voice, use it to speak truth to power, to make this world a little bit better than how we have found it, because we need you to do it in collaboration and community with us. And we can create radical transformation and change it to what we envision and see, as Ash said. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. You know what I mean? You have nothing to fear. Just go for it and do it.
Thank you all so much. I'm grateful for you giving us your time, your wisdom, your art, and I look forward to following you all. So please join me in thanking our panelists wherever you are. Yeah. Thank you. And thanks to Visions and Voices and Arts in Action for continuing to bring us really vital and timely programming and creating a space for conversations like these to happen. So thank y'all.
Thank you, Tara.
Thank you all. Good seeing you.
Stay safe, y'all.
Vote.
Peace.
Vote.